We tend to think of human history in these grand terms, right? Empires, huge cities, billions of people. But what if I told you our entire story, literally everything we've ever built, almost never happened? What if I told you there was a time when the entire human species was hanging on by a thread? We're not talking about a population in the millions. We were so much smaller, a number that's almost impossible to really wrap your head around today. Forget cities. There were no nations, no civilizations, nothing like that. It was just scattered, probably terrified little groups of survivors. I mean, we were a critically endangered species. Our numbers were so low that for almost any other animal on the planet, that's it. There's no coming back from that. And this isn't some sci-fi movie plot. Nope, this is a real ghost story. One that's told by our own DNA, by ancient climate records, and by the few artifacts left behind. This is the story of when we almost weren't. So, how on earth do we even know any of this happened? Well, the first big clue wasn't dug up from the ground. It was found right inside of us, hidden in plain sight, inside our very own genetic code. Take a look at this. A species like ours that's been around for hundreds of thousands of years should have this incredibly deep and varied genetic family tree. But we don't. When you compare us to other great apes, all of humanity is disturbingly, almost unnervingly similar. It's as if our entire genetic history was almost wiped clean at some point. And there's a scientific term for this. It's called a population bottleneck. Okay, imagine you've got a bottle full of all these different colored marbles. That's your diverse population. Now shake it up and let only a few marbles fall out. The new population you can build from that tiny sample, it's going to have way less variety than what you started with. Well, that's what happened to us. Some kind of global catastrophe forced all of humanity through an incredibly narrow genetic filter. Which brings us to this absolutely shocking number. The best estimates suggest our total breeding population might have dropped to somewhere between just 1,000 and 10,000 people. Not in one town, on the entire planet. So the question becomes, what could possibly cause a collapse on that scale?
Well, this wasn't one single bad day. It wasn't an asteroid. Our ancestors faced a planet that was, slowly but surely, turning against them. For thousands of years, the world itself was just failing.
The climate went completely haywire. I'm talking violent, unstable shifts. Lands that had been fertile for generations just turned to dust. The rain stopped coming, rivers dried up, and the big animals our ancestors relied on for food, they started dying off. All the basic rules of survival were being completely rewritten everywhere, all at once. And the human cost of this was just immense. As the world crumbled, human groups got cut off from each other. That whole network of spreading knowledge, new tools, different cultures, it just stopped. Humanity shattered into these tiny, isolated little bands, and each one of them was its own fragile experiment in survival. If one group failed, it was just gone, forever, with no one left to even know they ever existed. So if the whole world was collapsing, how in the world did anyone make it through? Well, we didn't survive as one big, happy family. We survived as tiny, little pockets of life, just clinging on in the few places the planet hadn't completely destroyed yet. Think of them like lifeboats in a global storm. Maybe it was a little spot on the coast where shellfish gave them a steady food source, or maybe a hidden river valley that still had fresh water, or a sheltered mountain area that was protected from the worst of the droughts. These were pretty much the last habitable places on Earth. And that isolation was just profound. These groups were completely cut off. I mean, for generations, they would have had no idea if any other human beings were left alive on the entire planet. They had no shared language, no shared culture, absolutely zero safety net. And we have to be brutally honest about this part. Even in these little refuges, survival was the extreme exception, not the rule. Each of those groups was just one bad season, one field hunt, one new disease away from being wiped out completely. And the vast majority of these little human experiments, they failed. When you survive something like a near extinction event, it comes with a price. It changes a species forever. So what did humanity lose in that fire, and how did it shape the people who managed to walk out of the ashes? The loss it's staggering to even think about. Entire branches of our human family tree were just snipped away. Gone. Countless languages, each telling a unique story about the world, died on the lips of their last speakers.
Different ways of life, beliefs, technologies, all vanished. We lost this incredible spectrum of our own diversity before we even really knew we had.
What that means is that everyone in everything we are today, every single person, every language, every culture, we all descend from that tiny handful of survivors. The rest is just silence. It's like an unimaginable library of human experience was just burned to the ground. But this whole event didn't just take things away from us. It also fundamentally shaped who we are right now. It probably hardwired our biology for incredible adaptability. It might explain why we're vulnerable to certain diseases today. And, of course, it's the ultimate reason why every single human on Earth is so incredibly closely related. We are quite literally all family, descended from the very few who refused to let the lights go out. And that really gets to the heart of it all, doesn't it? We tend to look at our place on this planet as a given, like it was inevitable, permanent. It's not. Our existence is this fragile legacy. It was passed down to us by a few thousand ancestors who somehow endured a world that was doing everything in its power to wipe them out. And against all odds, they just held on. So, that leaves us with this final, pretty sobering question. In a world that's facing its own set of challenges, do we really appreciate how fragile our existence is? Do we recognize just how close we, as a species, have already come to the end?